looked at a flower? I mean, really looked? If you go past all the pretty colors, there's this incredibly complex little machine at work. Today, we're going to get a look at the blueprint and see what makes it tick, piece by piece.
Right? We see them everywhere. But it's so easy to just overlook the amazing complexity that's packed into such a tiny space. Every single part has a super specific job to do in the flower's ultimate mission. So let's start from the outside and work our way in. Okay, so our journey starts right on the outside with the first two layers that, a bee or a butterfly or even you would run into first. These layers are all about two things, protection and attraction. First up, this sepal. You can pretty much think of these as the flower's own personal bodyguards. When the flower is just a tight, little, vulnerable bud, these tough green leaves wrap all the way around it, keeping it safe and sound until it's ready to bloom. And now, for what you might call the main event, the petals. These are the flower's giant, colorful billboards. Their entire job is to be as attractive as possible, using bright colors and sweet smells to basically shout, "Hey, bees, butterflies, get over here." They're absolutely crucial for bringing in the pollinators needed for reproduction. So even though they sit right next to each other, these two parts have completely opposite jobs. The sepal is all about quiet protection, so it's usually green and kind of camouflaged. The petal, that's all about loud attraction, with vibrant colors to catch the eye. It's really the difference between security and advertising. Okay, so the pollinators have been attracted. But what are they here for? Well, let's move past the petals and find out. We've just arrived at the male parts of the flower, which are known collectively as the androecium. Now, the androecium isn't just one single object. It's more like a team. It's usually made up of these long, delicate structures you see here, all arranged in a ring just inside the petals. And each one of those is made of two key parts working together. At the very tip of this structure is the anther. You could say this is the business end of the male parts. It's basically a tiny little factory that produces and stores the pollen, that fine, powdery dust that's the key to making the next generation of flowers. But what good is a pollen factory if you can't get the product out to your customers? That's where the filament comes in. This skinny stalk acts like a flagpole, holding the anther up high and presenting it perfectly for a passing bee to just brush up against it and pick some pollen up. So we've got the pollen, but where does it need to go? To find that out, we have to travel right to the very heart of the flower. This is the female reproductive structure, and it's known as the gynoecium. And just like the male androecium, the gynoecium isn't one simple thing. It's a whole system of 3 distinct parts, and each one plays a critical role in the incredible process of creating a seed. Right at the very top, we've got the stigma. The easiest way to think of this is as the pollen's landing pad. It's often sticky or feathery, specifically designed to catch and hold on to any pollen that a pollinator might bring over from another flower. So once a grain of pollen lands on that sticky stigma, it has a long journey to make. And that journey happens through the style. This tube-like structure acts as a pathway or a highway, connecting the stigma all the way down to the ovary at the base of the flower. And this brings us to the ovary. This is the protected chamber at the base of the gynoecium, and it holds the ovules, which are the potential seeds. And here's the really cool part. After fertilization, this very ovary is what will swell up and develop into the fruit. So we've seen all the individual players on the team. Now let's just take a step back and see how they all come together to form one single, perfectly functioning unit. All right, let's assemble it one last time, but let's go from the inside out. At the absolute core, you have the female gynoecium. Surrounding that, you've got the male androecium. Wrapped around them are the showy petals, doing all the attraction. And finally, holding the whole thing together are the protective sepals. See? Nothing is wasted. Every single layer has a vital purpose. It really is just a marvel of natural engineering. It kind of makes you think of what the poet Gerard de Nerval said. Every flower is a soul blossoming in nature. Each part we've talked about is a little piece of that soul, and they all work in perfect harmony. So now we know all the players on the stage. We've got the pollen, and we've got the destination. But the biggest question still remains. How does a tiny grain of pollen make that incredible journey? Well, that's where the real magic begins. And that's a story for another explainer. Thanks for joining us on this tour.